a family drowning in wealth and power, living like kings in their grand estate. But something sinister lurks in the shadows, waiting to consume them one by one. Their blessed existence slowly crumbles as an invisible curse tightens its grip around their throats. Are their tortured souls still trapped within these cursed walls? Can we unlock the dark secret that systematically obliterated an entire bloodline before it claims another victim? This is the bone-chilling true story of the Lemp Mansion, standing ominously in St. Louis, Missouri, a tale where the dead refuse to stay buried and the past bleeds into the present. To understand this nightmare properly, we need to rewind to the very beginning. Who were the Lemps? What drove them to greatness? And what unholy force dragged them down into the abyss? Let's start where it all began. The story opens with Johann Adam Lemp, a man who stepped off a boat in St. Louis, Missouri, fresh from Germany in 1838. Shortly after planting his boots on American soil, he constructed a modest grocery store at what's now the intersection of Delmar and 6th Street. He sold everyday items, groceries, and something special, his own homemade beer. This light, golden lager hit the St. Louis market like a revelation, a refreshing departure from the heavy, dark brews everyone was choking down. The secret recipe, passed down from his father, became an instant sensation. Just 2 years later, Adam abandoned the grocery game entirely and erected a small brewery instead. By 1840, his brewing operation stood near where the Golden Arches tower today. Lemp initially served his beer in a pub attached to the brewery, introducing St. Louis to its first true lager. But success came with problems. The brewery quickly became too cramped to handle both production and storage. Adam discovered a limestone cave system south of the city limits, at what's now the corner of Cherokee and DeMenil Place. This cave became his secret weapon. Workers would hack massive chunks of ice from the frozen Mississippi River and haul them into these underground chambers, creating the perfect frigid environment for his lager to ferment. The Western Brewing Company exploded in popularity, and by the 1850s, it dominated the city's beer scene. Adam Lemp died a millionaire on August 25th, 1862. His son William seized control and launched an aggressive expansion that would make the family legendary. William purchased a 5-block territory surrounding the storage facility on Cherokee, right above those sprawling caves. By 1864, a brand new plant towered on Cherokee Street. The Lemps didn't just expand, they conquered. They symbolized absolute wealth and raw power, controlling the St. Louis beer market like tyrants on a throne, a stranglehold they maintained until Prohibition came crashing down. In 1868, Jacob Feist, William's father-in-law, constructed an absolutely massive house near the Lemp Brewery. 8 years later, in 1876, William decided to buy it for his growing family, transforming it into both a luxurious residence and an auxiliary office. But the house wasn't grand enough for William's vision. He immediately began gutting and expanding the 33-room mansion into a Victorian masterpiece, a monument to excess and power. During this renovation, William did something extraordinary. He ordered workers to carve a tunnel from the mansion's basement, threading through those ancient caves directly to the brewery. As mechanical refrigeration technology emerged, portions of the cave system were repurposed into a natural auditorium and theatre. Over time, this underground kingdom expanded to include a massive concrete swimming pool, fed with hot water, piped directly from the brewery's boiling house. Later came a private bowling alley, then a personal movie theatre. The Lemp Western Brewery became the first American beer company to establish coast-to-coast distribution. They even helped launch what would become Pabst Blue Ribbon and Anheuser-Busch. On the surface, this looked like a fairy tale existence, unlimited wealth, unstoppable success, a dynasty that would last forever. But beneath this glittering facade, something rotten festered in the darkness. Despite their staggering success, tragedy began stalking the Lemp family like a predator circling wounded prey. In 1901, William Sr.'s favourite son and chosen heir died suddenly at just 28 years old. Frederick Lemp, never blessed with robust health, succumbed to heart failure. The loss absolutely devastated William. After burying his beloved son, he began withdrawing from the world, retreating into himself like a wounded animal. He was never the same man again. On January 1st, 1904, William's closest friend, Frederick Pabst, also died, leaving a broken William struggling to keep his brewery running. Though he still dragged himself to the office daily, employees noticed he'd become increasingly nervous and unstable, jumping at shadows. Shortly after these twin tragedies, William's physical and mental health collapsed like a building with rotted foundations. On February 13th, 1904, William Lemp ended his own life. In November 1904, William Lemp Jr. inherited the presidency of the William J. Lemp Brewing Company. Along with the family's vast fortune, he and his wife Lillian began burning through the inheritance at a terrifying pace. They stuffed the mansion with servants, hemorrhaged money on elaborate carriages, expensive clothing, and priceless art. Lillian was stunning, born into wealth herself. She'd married William Jr. in 1899, and their son, William J. Lemp III, was born September 26, 1900. Lillian quickly earned the nickname the Lavender Lady because of her obsession with the colour. She didn't just wear lavender clothes and accessories, she went completely insane with it, even dyeing her carriage horses' harnesses lavender. At first, William Jr. loved parading his trophy wife around town. But William, born with a silver spoon wedged in his mouth, was accustomed to doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. When he grew bored of Lillian, he demanded she spend her days shopping, giving her $1,000 every single day. He issued an ultimatum. If she didn't spend it all, she wouldn't get another cent. Meanwhile, William ran the brewery during daylight hours and pursued every decadent vice imaginable after dark. He threw absolutely insane parties in the caves beneath the mansion. He'd bring in entire groups of prostitutes to entertain him and his wealthy friends, who enjoyed the swimming pool, the bowling alley, and unlimited free-flowing beer deep underground. His friends who attended these depraved gatherings had the time of their lives beneath the earth's surface. But all that debauchery came with a price. William's reckless behaviour caught up with him when he fathered a son with a woman who wasn't his wife. Here's where it gets disturbing. There's zero official documentation that this boy ever existed. But rumours spread like wildfire that William locked this child in the mansion's attic for his entire life. According to St. Louis historian Joe Gibbons, who interviewed a former nanny and chauffeur who worked at the mansion decades ago, both confirmed the boy's existence. They said he lived in the attic quarters alongside the servants' rooms. Born from William's affairs with either a prostitute or a mansion servant, the child had Down syndrome. The family considered him a complete embarrassment, so they hid him from the world to protect the Lemp name from shame. Finally, William Jr., exhausted by his trophy wife and her constant complaints from his perspective, filed for divorce in 1908. Why Lillian tolerated his behaviour for so long probably reflects the times she lived in. But the court proceedings became a massive St. Louis scandal. All 4 St. Louis newspapers plastered extensive front-page coverage of the messy affair. The trial opened in February 1909, drawing massive crowds to the courthouse daily to witness the drama unfold. Tales of violence, drunkenness, ego, and excess spilled into public view. Despite William's outrageous activities, Lillian nearly lost custody of William Lemp III because of a single photograph presented at trial showing her smoking a cigarette. Again, probably a reflection of those times. But ultimately, she retained custody of their son and disappeared from public life. The only time anyone saw her wearing anything other than lavender was on the final day of divorce proceedings, when she appeared entirely in black before the judge. But the divorce was just the beginning of William's troubles. In 1906, 9 major breweries in the St. Louis area merged to form the Independent Breweries Company, creating brutal competition the Lemp Brewery had never faced before. That same year, William's mother died of cancer. The lavish spending on personal luxuries and ridiculous underground parties had already drained the family fortune significantly. Now the company's profits were shrinking rapidly. Despite this financial crisis, the Lemp Mansion underwent complete remodeling in 1911, partially converting into brewery offices. Simultaneously, William allowed the company's equipment to decay and deteriorate, possibly to fund these renovations. When World War I exploded in 1914, the brewery was a hollow shell of its former glory. William also built a country estate on the Merrimack River, where he increasingly retreated from reality. During this period, he remarried in 1915. The profit downturn from competition was nothing compared to what arrived in 1919: prohibition. The individual family members were already wealthy enough that keeping the brewery operational seemed pointless. For a while, William hoped Congress would repeal prohibition. But when that dream died, so did his hope. Just months after prohibition took effect, the Lemp plant shut down without warning. Workers arrived one morning to find the doors locked and gates chained. The family's misfortune was just beginning. On March 20th, 1920, Elsa Lemp, William's sister and the wealthiest heiress in St. Louis, took her own life exactly like her father had years before. Elsa was reportedly despondent over her troubled marriage and numerous personal and financial problems following the brewery's collapse. William Jr. slipped into the same suffocating depression that had consumed his father. He became increasingly nervous and erratic, avoiding public life and constantly complaining about mysterious illnesses. On December 29, 1922, William also ended his life in the exact same building where his father had died 18 years earlier. William's brothers, Charles and Edwin, had abandoned the family business long ago, seeing their chances of running the empire as non-existent. The Lemp dynasty seemed finally finished. But in 1943, another tragedy struck when William Lemp III, the only legitimate son of William Jr., suddenly died of a heart attack at age 42. Shortly after this, Charles remodeled the mansion back into a residence and moved in with 2 servants and his brother's illegitimate child. Charles became increasingly strange as he aged. He developed a terrifying fear of germs, his obsessive-compulsive behaviour spiralling out of control. He wore gloves constantly to avoid bacteria and washed his hands obsessively. Shortly after the renovation, William's illegitimate son, now in his 30s, also died under mysterious circumstances. Not long after his nephew's death, Charles became the fourth Lemp family member to end his own life. First, he took his beloved Doberman into the basement and shot the dog. Then he climbed the stairs to his second-floor room and followed through. Charles was discovered on May 10th, 1949 by staff members, still clutching a revolver. His death wasn't quick either. He appeared to have tried descending the stairs or collapsed after pulling the trigger. Of the Lemp family, only Edwin remained. He'd wisely avoided the tragic life that consumed his relatives. Known as quiet and reclusive, he'd walked away from the Lemp Brewing Company in 1913 to live peacefully on a secluded estate in Kirkwood, Missouri. Edwin died quietly of natural causes at age 90 in 1970. According to Edwin's final wishes, his butler burned every painting the Lemps had collected throughout their lives, along with priceless family documents and artifacts. These irreplaceable pieces of history vanished in smoke and ash that day. The Lemp bloodline ended with Edwin. Their final resting place is now Bellefontaine Cemetery, where an impressive mausoleum bears their name. Though their physical remains rest within concrete walls, do their tortured spirits still haunt their former estate? After Charles Lemp's death, the mansion sold and became a boarding house, along with the surrounding neighborhood. This is where the first haunting stories emerged. New residents moved in and almost immediately began complaining about ghostly knocks and phantom footsteps echoing throughout the house. Coupled with these terrifying manifestations, residents began seeing spectral apparitions drifting through rooms and halls. People became so frightened they'd typically move out almost as fast as they'd moved in, ultimately leading to the boarding house's decline and closure. Now falling into decay, demolition seemed inevitable. However, the mansion was purchased again in 1975. The new owner, Richard Pointer, immediately began renovating, eventually restoring the once incredible estate somewhat back to its former glory. He transformed it into a restaurant. They say spirits inhabiting older buildings absolutely hate renovations. Whether this stirred up dormant energy or the ghosts simply sensed new presence within the mansion, they made themselves violently known, even more than before. Workers constantly reported apparitions, strange sounds like 1,000 whispers flooding their ears. Tools began vanishing. Everyone felt the bone-chilling sensation of invisible eyes watching them constantly. Terrified by the haunting, many workers abandoned the job site and never returned. Eventually, renovations completed and the restaurant and inn opened. Since then, staff members have reported countless bizarre experiences. Apparitions appear and vanish instantly. Voices and sounds emerge from nowhere. Glasses lift off the bar and fly through the air by themselves. Doors lock and unlock without anyone touching them. Lights turn on and off with their own free will. The piano bar often plays when nobody's near it. Could these be the tragically departed souls of the Lemp family? 3 areas of the mansion have the most intense activity: the stairway, the attic, and what staff called the gates of hell in the basement. This basement area was once the entrance to caves running beneath the mansion and brewery. The attic is allegedly haunted by William Jr.'s illegitimate son, known only as the monkey-faced boy. This poor soul, born with Down syndrome, spent his entire life locked in the mansion's attic. Strange occurrences constantly happen on the 3rd level. The boy's face has regularly been spotted from the street, peeking through small windows. Investigators often leave toys in the middle of his room, drawing circles around them to see if objects move. Consistently, when they return the next day, toys are found in different locations. In the downstairs women's bathroom, which was once William Jr.'s personal domain and held the first freestanding shower in St. Louis, many women report a man peeking over their stall. On one occasion, a woman emerged from the bathroom, returned to the bar, and yelled at the two men she was with, hoping they got an eyeful. However, both men quickly denied ever leaving the bar, which the bartender verified. The confusion and disbelief must have been overwhelming. This ghost is believed to be the womanizing William Jr. In William Lemp Sr.'s room, guests often report hearing someone running upstairs and violently kicking the door. When William Sr. ended his life, William Jr. ran upstairs to his father's room and, finding it locked, began kicking the door, desperately trying to reach his father. Perhaps this is residual haunting, replaying endlessly. Experiences have also occurred outside the mansion. A tour guide reported hearing horses outside the room where William Lemp Sr. kept his office. When the guide looked through the window, nothing was there. This northern area of the mansion, now a parking lot, was once used for tethering horses. Many paranormal stories have been told by mansion visitors over the years. Here's just one. On Saturday, October 9th, 2004, two women we'll call Katie and Amy visited the Lemp Mansion with St. Louis historian Joe Gibbons. Joe spent years researching the mansion and often gave tours with the owner's permission and cooperation. This is told from Katie's perspective. Meeting Joe at the bar, we settled in, drinking a couple of lagers and chatting. Afterward, he began showing Amy and me around the mansion. As Joe described in intricate detail the history of the mansion, the land it stands on, and the many strange occurrences in this haunted building, several bizarre events occurred. The first happened when we stood in the darkened attic, as Joe described the monkey-faced boy. I began snapping pictures. During our time in the attic, I heard faint whispers like a small child from behind me. The whispers happened incredibly fast, alternating from ear to ear, like someone speaking into them simultaneously at close range. I couldn't make out the voice at first, but it sounded like it was saying "help me" over and over again. Later in our tour, we encountered another group on a different tour. After brief discussion, several members described passing a man in the hallway and asked if we'd seen him. He was holding a key in his hand, acting irritated with the large group moving through. He was described as pale and older, wearing a white shirt and black pants. Nobody thought anything of it, believing him to be staff. However, we discovered there was no such gentleman working or staying at the mansion that night, matching that description. Though no harm was done and nothing was disturbed, the whole experience was extremely bizarre and certainly not something I'll forget soon. Was this the ghost of one of the Lemp patriarchs, seemingly angry their space was being invaded? In this particular case, those involved in their demise certainly prompt more questions than answers. What drove so many of them to bring about their own destruction? Was it circumstantial, stress-induced, a genetic predisposition affecting their mental chemistry? Or was it something darker we simply can't explain? Did victims of their product, those caught in addiction's grip, result in some kind of curse for the family? Did they make some deal with the devil to gain profound wealth and admiration, only to watch the house of cards collapse and the bloodline extinguish? Or could something have dwelled within those caves underneath the mansion? Perhaps ancient evil that got disturbed once remodeling efforts began? It's truly impossible to say, because those who could know such things are no longer walking this earth in human form. But perhaps they're still walking the earth nonetheless. The mansion has been featured in numerous magazine articles and newspapers. now attracting ghost hunters and historians from across the country. Today, it still features a bed and breakfast with rooms restored to period style, a restaurant offering fine dining, and mystery dinner theatre. Tours are still available at the mansion if you dare. As mentioned, the Lemp family mausoleum still stands today, housing the remains of the family tree. The boy known as the monkey-faced boy, that unfortunate soul born out of wedlock, who continues showing his presence at the mansion, is also buried with the family, but on the cemetery plot, marked only with a flat, small marker labelled Lemp. A sad ending to an amazing story of success turned tragic. It just goes to show you never truly know what's happening beneath the surface, because behind all that wealth, smiling faces and excess could be nothing but a thread holding demons at bay, and all it takes is for them to breach the surface like a creature hiding in dark water. But what do you think caused the family curse? Is the mansion truly haunted, or is it superstition? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd really like to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Although it's different from our usual content, I really enjoyed the historical aspects of older stories like these, so I hope you did too. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you're new here. Share this video wherever you can. All those things help me tremendously. Please check out Surfshark VPN, today's sponsor. Not only is it a great product and service, but especially with the deal given, it's practically unbeatable. And with that, I hope all of you are doing well, mentally and physically. I want to remind you that with the grind of our daily lives, please take time to care for yourself, because nobody can be you and you can't take care of anyone else if your basics aren't met. So thank you for your support. Please continue taking care of yourselves. I love you all. And until next time, please remember to stay safe out there and take care.